Can you tell us a little bit more about your own research and current passion projects?
Yeah, with pleasure. Thanks. So one of the main lines of research, and you hinted at this already in the introduction, that we have at IPOR is trying to understand and sort of ultimately close the gaps between the way that experts perceive risks and the way that publics do. And these gaps matter because when experts and the public disagree about risks, or either how big they are, how important they are, or what to do about them, one thing that happens a lot is that there's confusion. People can end up doing something that actually puts them more at risk when they're trying to do something to protect themselves. It also drives up the costs of monitoring and enforcement of policies and regulation. Think of how much easier it would be and how much money could be saved if everybody just followed the rules on road safety or occupational safety, just because they agreed about what the risks were and what the appropriate action was. And I think in more extreme cases, it leads to conflict or to deadlock. And the result is that some risks just don't get managed at all. In the US, for example, there's been no permanent facility for nuclear waste disposal for decades and decades. And that's because, government agencies and the public and experts can't agree about what the appropriate way is to manage these risks. But the result is that nuclear waste is piling up in temporary facilities that aren't as well suited to managing these risks on a long-term basis. And of course, we can think of lots and lots of examples from COVID and others of public health risks where you had direct conflicts between authorities and the public at, sometimes direct cost to health and safety. So how do we close this gap? And what are we doing in terms of research? Part of what we're trying to do is to think about how we can measure it. How do we think about the scale, the severity, and also the importance of these gaps? Like, where do we focus our research efforts? And just that leaves us with lots of questions and lots to think about. And then we've also got to think about how to close the gap. And so part of it, of course, is informing the public and trying to get people to understand the risks better. But I think it's also about trying to get experts to understand how the public thinks and how sometimes there might be, very good reasons why the public perceives risks differently from the way experts do. Their values, their priorities might be different. An expert faces, they think about one risk. Let's say you're an expert on wildfires. And you know those risks very well. And so for you, it's perfectly obvious that you should prioritize that risk and here are some appropriate actions. But as an individual, we face a landscape of risks. And natural hazards like wildfires are important, but also there's a whole gamut of health risks that might affect us and our loved ones. There's, road safety. What about our unemployment risk? What about our job security? And so as individuals, we're constantly juggling and trying to work out how to prioritize our efforts, both in understanding and reacting and managing risks, which the expert doesn't have to do. So we find that quite a lot of our time and effort is spent on trying to sort of communicate back to experts why the public, why individuals might think about risks the way that they do.
I trust you've enjoyed this brief section of my conversation with my most excellent guest. Check out the full podcast episode by clicking here.